how dumb can you be?
But Betty,
Don't you dare call me by my name, you scum!
I'm hated by my mother-in-law, although she is a mother of my love. When I lost my parents, I swore to love my in-laws. Contrary to my promise, my relationship with Betty isn't going well, and if anything, it's only causing me more pain. I wonder how this started. I didn't get married to spend a life in this way. Bullied by my mother-in-law, but I can't tell my husband, and I'm mentally reaching my limit. What saved me is the appearance of an unexpected person. My name is Maya, 28 years old. I graduated from a state university with a nursing degree and followed in my mother's footsteps to be a nurse. Growing up, watching her work in the hospital, I dreamed of helping many patients one day. I had good knowledge of medicine, so my friends often consulted me about their health. On one occasion, I gave first aid to a passenger who collapsed at the train station and called an ambulance. It was all thanks to my mother's strong sense of justice that I inherited. It was my belief that if someone was in trouble, I didn't hesitate to give assistance. 2 years after I became a nurse, my mother suddenly passed away from a heart attack. In a single-parent household, my mother was more important to me than anything else. I couldn't even repay her for raising me single-handedly. When I found the job, I thought I would give back to her little by little. Just then, she was gone. After my mother died, I hated everything, and I even thought about quitting the job I loved so much. In the end, I didn't quit because of him. It was Cam, my husband. When I just started working, he was a rehab outpatient. He was somewhat easy to talk to, and I could interact with him without feeling self-conscious. He didn't have any major illnesses, which worked in our favor too. He was light-hearted and gentle, yet dependable. Eventually, he asked me for my number, and we started seeing each other on a regular basis. We got married after 2 years of dating. I got a new family after I had been lonely without my own. I was losing hope, but his presence made me want to try again. However, the marriage wasn't all happy. I was bothered by something right after I started my new life. The cause of my trouble was my mother-in-law Betty. She was far out from the mother figure I envisioned. Initially, Ken and I were living together in his apartment. About 2 weeks into our honeymoon, Betty paid a surprise visit. She told me, "Maya, I'm not feeling so well these days." I was obliged to listen because I knew she was relying on me as a nurse. "Oh no, what's exactly wrong?" "Not really about my health, but I'm concerned about my living situation. My husband and I are alone, so I worry if anything happens." "Well, when you need help, you can always call me." "But maybe we get worse while calling you. Maybe we die while waiting." If it comes to that, you need to call an ambulance." Then she gave me a bright smile and uttered unexpected words. "So Maya, let's live together." "What?" It was such a sudden request that I didn't know how to reply. She continued talking cheerily, while I was just flabbergasted. "You're a nurse, so I feel safe when something happens." "Wait, I can't decide on such a big thing right away." No, I'm not telling you to move in now. But I'm not getting younger, so it's better sooner than later." "I see. You'll be freed from paying rent, so isn't it better for you too? Please think about it." She left looking satisfied. Since then, I received numerous calls from her asking about the move. I thought about consulting Cam, but he happened to be in the middle of the peak season at work and didn't seem to have time to discuss such an important matter. Just as I was contemplating, he mentioned,
My mom told me, but are we supposed to move in with her sometime?"
"Really?" She sounded quite happy about it. She said she felt safe having you with her. Wait a minute. She's getting carried away on her own. Oh yeah? We both work, so I think it's not a bad idea. Your housework will be lighter, you know. He had a point. Having a double income was financially beneficial, but the chores became poor. I often had no energy to cook dinner after work, so I prepared TV dinners or had takeaways. Ken always said he didn't mind, but I was skeptical. Once I started thinking about it, more and more concerns piled up in my mind. I came to think that it might be best to move in with the in-laws for him. As a result, I reluctantly agreed to Betty's request. Thus, just 2 months after our marriage, we started living with my in-laws. At first, Betty treated me as kindly as she could. Thank you so much for moving in with us. We are grateful to have an excellent daughter-in-law like you. I will take up the chores so you can focus on your work now. That being said, part of me expected that my life was going to be easier. But in reality, instead of becoming easier, what awaited me was living in hell. Just 1 week after I moved in, her attitude toward me took a drastic turn. She began discreetly bullying me. Hey Maya, are you really going to depend on me for all housework? I don't intend to. I do cleaning and washing on my days off. Huh. Who do you think you are? Isn't that a little unfair, you being a daughter-in-law? No, I don't mean to. It's obvious. You put everything on my shoulders and just want to make money for yourself. So sneaky. My mouth was agape to hear such an accusation from her. Who said all the housework was going to be taken care of in the first place? Since then, I tried to help her as much as I could. I prepared breakfast and did laundry before going to work. If I got off work on time, I cooked dinner. Every time it was for Cam, Betty, and my father-in-law, the 4 of us. I had come to regret that my life with Ken alone was so much easier. As a nurse, my days off were random. Ken was a normal office worker, so our days off coincided only a few times a month. I was off on a weekday and planned to go out for the first time in a while that day. I finished the chores and went to find Betty in the living room. Hey Betty, I'll be out for a bit. What? Where do you think you're going? Just going to a mall. I have to buy a birthday present for my colleague. I will be back soon. All of a sudden, Betty turned red, fuming. What the hell did you say? Going shopping? You got a nerve for a daughter-in-law. Once she became hysterical, it was out of my control. She lost her temper and lashed out at me with her personal point of view. It's not fair that you get to go out. You can't even do your chores right, and you think you deserve to go out? If you have time to hang around, get to your housework. She showed such a temperament only in front of me, and acted so gently in front of Ken and her husband. Gradually, her hostility escalated, and she even began to complain about my work. I was pressured to quit my job just 4 months after moving in with her. When I spoke to Ken about my resignation, he was concerned, but I still couldn't tell him what was going on. I only said that I was worn out and needed a break, to which he agreed. I loved my challenging job, but I was mentally exhausted that I couldn't face my work properly. It was all a ploy by Betty. The next thing I knew, she was controlling all aspects of my life. Was I going to be her puppet as long as she lived? Was I going to let her dominate me forever? Although I struggled, she showed her malice only when we were alone. I planned to record her bullying for proof, but I got too nervous when it came down to it and didn't work out in the end. One day, she informed me that she was having her 6th birthday party at home. That was the day she told me. Can you hold on and think for a minute? I hastily tried to change her mind. It's too crazy to prepare for a birthday party now.
What's crazy? You go and get a birthday cake and start cooking.
But,
Hush, you jobless skunk. You're my slave. Do what I tell you. I already have invited my friends.
she cheerfully changed into her elegant dress and began putting a lot of makeup on her face. If her friends were coming, failure to comply was not an option even more than usual. I hurried out to buy her cake and to a supermarket, and then rushed back and prepared salads and sandwiches and decorated the cake. When all was ready, Betty's friends started showing up. I was about to open the front door to welcome them in.
Stop! Don't you show your face to my friends, okay?
But I should at least greet them.
No need of greeting from a jobless skunk, aka slave. Go and clean the hallway and the stairs. My friends would pass on the way to the bathroom.
Fine. I cleaned as she ordered. Then one of her friends, Wendy, popped her face out to the hallway and asked,
Hey Betty, who is that cleaning? Oh yeah, her. She's my daughter-in-law Maya. Has she done some wrong to you?
Not at all. She looks very eager.
Eager? No way. She had to be ordered to clean by me.
Wendy was a name I had heard quite often from Betty. I continued to polish the hallway, feeling my face burning in shame at the thought of exposing my abomination to her friends. Seeing me like that, Wendy asked again, Hey Betty, how long are you gonna make her do that?
Until it becomes immaculate and everyone arrives.
But it's like,
Don't worry, Wendy. She's more like a slave than a daughter-in-law.
As soon as she mentioned the word, the room fell silent. While everyone seems to be taken aback, she looked down and started yelling at me, probably to show off her status.
How useless are you?
But Betty,
don't you dare call me by my name, you skunk.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand why I was being treated this way in front of her friends. Then Wendy rushed toward us and slapped Betty's cheek. At that second, the status of Betty and me switched. Betty was trembling from shock and anger.
What did you do that for?
Screamed at Wendy with a burning face. Wendy calmly answered, I'm disappointed in you. I thought we were good friends.
So why did you slap me? Such a savage act.
Who is a savage? You mistreat the person who saved my life so terribly.
Saved your life?
Betty stared at her dumbfoundedly. I was totally lost when Wendy smiled at me and said, It's been a long time. You're the nurse, right? Do you remember me? I'm sorry, but have we met before? It's been a few years. You saved me at the train station. Train station? Oh my god, that lady! She was the one I assisted on a platform a while back. I remember giving first aid to her, who was unconscious at the time, and calling for an ambulance while frantically talking to her. I suppose she remembered the whole thing. She must have vaguely remembered my face and voice, and maybe asked the hospital about me later. I'd never imagined that I was going to meet her again in such a circumstance. I was surprised, but Wendy happily continued her story. I thank you so much for your help. I still remember you holding my hand and talking to me until the paramedics arrived. I'm so glad that you made it. I owe it to you. I've been hoping to thank you in person, but never imagined you're in such a terrible condition. Her words prompted the other friends to coldly stare at Betty. When Betty noticed, her face immediately turned white. Desperately trying to regain her position, she raised her voice.
No. Don't take it wrong. Slave, but she initiated it on her will, and I've never told her to be one. Believe me.
No matter how hard she tried to justify herself, No one believed her any longer. Wendy lashed out at her. "You're the worst kind to treat this honorable woman in such a terrible way. She's the wife of your precious son, isn't she? Yet you call her a slave? You have no compassion."
Wait, Wendy, I don't mean to.
Then how do you mean? I remember her thriving and glowing with full of life back then, and now she looks so pained. I have no doubt you took the life out of her. Apologize to her now. What are you waiting for? Betty shed tears being scolded by Wendy, and resentfully apologized to me. The birthday party was a mess afterward. Everyone changed the way they looked at Betty. Discovering her true nature, they left one by one. Wendy stayed back and explained the whole ordeal to Ken and my father-in-law. All the facts came out, and Betty's malice was exposed. My father-in-law was outraged and immediately demanded a divorce.
"Get out of here now,"
he scolded Betty, who frantically apologized in tears. It had become an uncontrollable chaos. My father-in-law hired a divorce attorney the next day, and Betty was kicked out of the house. She had been a penniless housewife and lost her home and family at once. What kind of life she was going to lead from then on? I didn't want to imagine how miserable it was going to be, but I had no sympathy for her. She had planted the seed on her own. As for me, I still live with Ken and my father-in-law. I'm working once again and living a fulfilling life. Ken still seems to be remorseful. He must be feeling pretty responsible because he often speaks to me with a gloomy expression.
"I'm really sorry, hon, about my mom."
Let it go now. I got to meet Wendy anyway.
By the way, are you going to dinner with her soon?
Yeah, she's taking me to her favorite restaurant.
Well then, let me pay for it.
Yes, thank you, hon. Winnie and I became good friends after the incident. I never thought that what I naturally did to help back then would turn around and come back to me in such a good way. I'm assured now that my way of life is not wrong. With this in mind, I will live on.